drama, backstabbing, and drug use. Nah, none of that and more in episode 3 of Dad Chat.
Just want to finish these chats with Dad. Dad, I just want to chat with you some more.
Welcome to another episode of Dad Chat.
Dad stuff, okay?
For everything dads need to know about business, life, news, and doing everything they need to do to take over the world.
Take over the world.
And still get home in time for dinner.
Time for dinner, sweetie.
With your hosts, Greg Roulette and Matthew Goldfarb.
All right, welcome back to Dad Chat. Greg here with Matt. What's happening, my man?
Not much, man. Just enjoying this fall weather. It's going to rain, and life is good.
Yeah, my fall weather is still 95 and sunny. You know, it's just, I recorded another podcast yesterday, and I was just like, welcome to the last day of September. It is 94 degrees outside.
See, but this is where, people can say what they want about living in Florida, but this is the time of year where people start thinking, hey, Florida might actually be a great option when it's, still in the 80s in November, whereas here, it's 65 now, but in a week it's going to be 43 and 30, just the insane weather out here. So
it's madness, man. Madness. Well, I'm back from Hollywood. You're back in the home office today, and we have some really cool news and stories to share with everyone. And we're going to start lighthearted. Last episode, we went hard on some topics. So we're going to start a little lighthearted. And you found this from the Daily Mail, and it is the World Dad Dancing Contest. Some of these dads have been to a lot of these dancing contests. Like it's the 6th World Dancing Championship in Devon. Kind of crazy, man. Why are we talking about dads dancing today?
I just thought this was awesome. I mean, I think the whole thing is you think about dads and everyone's like, dads are embarrassing and dads are there to embarrass their kids. And I kind of feel like that's true. And this is a contest that's specifically created just to embarrass the hell out of your children. And so I thought it was just really funny. And it's a great article because this guy basically was like, I'm going to go to this contest and whatever. And it was legit. I mean, like, people take it real serious. There's real rules and considerations. And I just thought this is friggin' awesome.
Yeah, and it says here, last year's winner offered advice to some of the other dancers. And he said, the secret, he says with a twinkle, is to know the moves. I spent the past 12 months learning the floss, the orange justice, and the Theresa May. I kind of think I know the floss. I don't know how to do it, but I know what the floss is. I have no idea what an orange justice or a Theresa May is. So I might need to watch some more YouTube.
Yes, I think it says the Theresa May is, quote, an uncanny impersonation of the ex-prime minister, or the ex-prime minister's malfunctioning robot, whatever the hell that means. So that might be a YouTube search. But yeah, the floss, you see it everywhere. It's been kind of like, I see it in Energizer commercials. I see my kid do it. I'm surprised the dog doesn't know how to do it. That's like,
for real. Yeah, that one at least, yeah, it kind of hit that viral pop sensation. So interesting here is like, I'm super into music. Like I spent a lot of time as a musician, touring, doing shows, running a recording studio to pay for college. And I'm still like that guy who's, mid to late 30s, who has his windows down, bumping like really loud hip hop or really loud punk rock. My kids want nothing to do with it. And even like on the way to baseball games, I'm like, all right, super loud music, dance party. And Colton just rolls his eyes and looks at me as if I am like the worst dad of all time. Like, who are you? Like, I'm embarrassed to be in the car. Do you and Nate get down? You guys do dance parties? Is he kind of into music, or just it hasn't clicked with him yet either?
Yeah, the sad part for me is I think my kid has got his pulse. He's 7. He's got the pulse on cultural, like what's hot, more than I do. I'm like Mr. Spotify, just listen to my old shit. And he's always like, Dad, we got to hear this new jam he's like, I want to hear Sia or the Little Nas X song. And then we definitely hang out and just dance and act like idiots. And I must have on my phone like 75 impromptu dances of Nate just bumping, well, maybe not bumping and grinding, but cruising along. But I don't think he's fully gotten embarrassed by me just yet, but he doesn't know that I'm just warming up.
Man. Good for him, man. Like Colton, like I ask him questions. I'm like, hey, do you know what like this is, or do you know what that is? And he just looks at me like he's just so naive to like what's going on around him. Like all he wants to do is play baseball and run around and play tag. And they play a game on the playground that's like run away from the girls. I'm like, dude, you'll play a different game in high school, I promise you.
Very different.
But once has zero sense of like what's cool or pop culture, and like I'm like the opposite. I'm like last week going in Hollywood before like one of our events to go buy like Yeezy shoes that just dropped, because in LA you can like get those things, and like and so like I'm into that kind of stuff, and he's like, don't care, man, just throw me a ball. Like, stop. And it's just funny. So we would not win this damn competition.
Well, wait till you break his heart and tell him that he can't go to college because you bought the Yeezy sneakers. That's the irony of the whole thing.
That's his college fund is going to my shoe collection right now. Well, one dad who has no problem having a massive shoe collection and as probably one of the kings of pop culture, at least how it's changed over the last couple decades, Simon Cowell. I don't think he's maybe as prominent as he was during like the heyday of American Idol, but he had this really cool article talking about how fatherhood changed everything for him, admitting that life is more simple and fun since becoming a father. He sees his life through his eyes now, speaking of his son. It's much more simple, much more fun. When you become a dad, something clicks in you. It's all about them. And obviously, we see this a lot. I know your life changed, my life changed, but it's weird because literally everything changes. Simon Cowell says he stops going to sleep at 5 o'clock or 7 o'clock in the morning and like has a actual bedtime now. But things like that, like it just your life does change. And even at this superstar level, this life of the party level, when you have that child, things in your life naturally change. I mean, anything in this kind of article when Simon was talking that kind of stood out to you?
Well, I think just the big thing about how everything that he did was really just about his career and forwarding his work. And then suddenly it was like, wow, this isn't the most important thing to me anymore. And obviously it's easy for him. We can always say, because he's already built a mass fortune. So if he doesn't make 5 million this year, it's fine. But I think just any time someone who is so driven and suddenly seeing things from a very different perspective, that's what just caught my eye. And it's also interesting because the dude's almost 60. He's got a 5-year-old.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't imagine. I think one of the big things as I was reading this is how, again, he was saying he was going to sleep at like 5 in the morning, 7 in the morning, and he changed it to a 10 o'clock bedtime, wakes up at 8:30, has breakfast. And this line, he says, I got to be honest with you, that was a big part of it. It didn't feel right that I couldn't explain to someone his age that I've been working all night and I'm tired in the afternoon. I mean, we've talked about, I think on the last episode, is like, when my kids get home from school, I never want to be the kind of dad who's like, I work too hard, I'm too tired to read a book to you or to go throw the ball outside or to jump in the pool. And it's interesting to see even these mega stars, mega celebrities, people that, have these ridiculous schedules are seeing the same thing because they don't want to be tired in front of their kids. They don't want to say, you know what? Daddy's got to take a nap in the only 2 hours that you're home and awake today. So
yeah. The one other thing I just liked about it is as a result of having a kid, he like committed, he dropped like 20 or 30 pounds. He changed his diet and everything because he's like, dude, I want to not only have the energy, but feel good doing it. And that's definitely something I relate to in terms of kind of getting my own shit together and getting healthier. Because I was like, I do not want to feel like I don't want to run with my kid for 5 minutes and then feel like I'm going to have a heart attack.
Yeah. You don't want to be the dad panting on the playground.
No.
After like running up and down the slide for like 5 minutes. Speaking of parks, dog parks, cool article from Gizmodo. I'm talking about the creator of Labradoodles says he unleashed Frankenstein's monster. Are you a Labradoodle guy? Is that why this article stood out to you? You're like, I love my Labradoodle.
No, well, I do have a designer mutt called a Cavachon, which I feel like I sometimes feel embarrassed to say. She's a mix of a Cavalier and a Bichon. And so I think that is what caught my attention. It was just such a great headline, this idea of unleashing Frankenstein's monster. But I don't have a Labradoodle, but I will say that there have been Labradoodles in my proximity of my life at various points. How about you?
I'm not a Labradoodle guy. I had German Shepherds growing up. My mom was like in love with that type of dog. So we ended up having 2 of them, a purebred white German Shepherd and then a black one. And then it was either right before or right after we got married, we went to and rescued a dog, and it was a part German Shepherd, part Corgi. And she's now, 12, 13 years old. The kids love her. She's toned down in her old age, if you will. and just kind of a bigger, playful dog kind of guy, especially with 3 boys in the house. They got to be able to run around, roughhouse a little. I don't think the Labradoodle would do it for us.
Well, I think what's interesting about the article is, the guy who created it, he basically said that he created it. It was out of a need. It was, I think someone needed a service dog. So kind of that Labrador retriever, but they needed one that was hyperallergenic because the person was blind but allergic to dogs. And so he wasn't even thinking about, the way it looked, but basically what he found was people fell in love with the dog and suddenly turned it into this business. And so he feels a lot of guilt and shame about it, which is interesting because it is definitely kind of this designer. I call them designer mutts. And so it is fascinating. And, I don't know how it is down by you, but here, like where I am in Western Mass, it's like the home of the rescue dog. Like everyone, adopts dogs and rescue dogs, which I totally support. And we got my dog back when I was in New York. She's going to be 10 in November, but it's just an interesting article to realize there's always this like 2 factions of people who want these like perfect designed best parts of all dogs. And then people who were like, I will rescue anything from anywhere. And so that's it. It was a fascinating article. That's what got my attention on it.
I love this. Right at the end, he says he got a phone call. The founder of the Labradoodle says he got a phone call a couple years ago from someone telling him that he bred the first Roodle. He's like, what in the world is that? A Rottweiler crossed with a standard Poodle.
Oh my Lord.
So, man, dogs, man's best friend, especially, when they're Frankenstein dogs.
Yeah.
I love it. But it goes to show, man, if someone has a problem, you kind of can find a solution, but just don't regret that solution. Keeping with the Gizmodo theme, another one from them, and this was pretty much the story that was all over the internet the other day, is that Amazon announced even more products for home, for life, for all of these great things, from the new Echo Dot to the new version of the Echo Studio, the Echo Show, the Echo Glow, the Ring stick-up cam, the Ring indoor cam. This is probably my favorite, the Smart Oven, and glasses, Echo frames, the Echo Loop. Oh my goodness, there's so many. The Echo Flex, Echo Buds, which are the competitors to AirBuds, Amazon Arrow, Ring Fetch. I mean, this is insane how much Amazon is being a part of the home. First of all, are you like an Amazon Alexa kind of person, or are you not having the Alexa stuff in your house?
I fought it for a while, having it, but then Nate got an Echo Dot at his mom's house, I think a year or 2 ago, and was so enamored with like being able to have it tell jokes and play music. So we ended up getting one. So I have a small one. I hook it up to like my Sonos so we can yell at it, and I use it as a timer. I don't know if I'm going to go the full Monty and all of the stuff they have here, but it's crazy. Like, what about you guys? I feel like you have some of this stuff.
Yeah, we're geeks for the smart home. So we just moved about just over a month ago, and we have smart everything, and we're getting more and more of it as we like figure out the house. And we've always been Amazon Alexa people. So we have our main Alexa in the kitchen. That it's a glorified music box, but it also acts as a calculator, so when the kids are doing homework, it fact checker, like how long ago did the dinosaurs die?
Totally.
It's a fact checker. It works in that way. And obviously timers, just little things like that. But then we started getting smarter, and we started connecting it with our light bulbs. And so we'd be like, Amazon, Alexa, turn on the living room light, turn off the living room light, turn on the kitchen lights. Then we started getting even geekier in the bedroom. So like, turn on Greg's side, turn on Jen's side, turn on all the bedroom lights, turn on the pool lights. And so we started the front door thing. So now we can see who's at the front door. And all from Alexa and the Amazon stuff. So I am super intrigued with all of this stuff. I understand people and their privacy issues, but look, nothing's private anyway. Everything you browse on Facebook is being sold against you. So if you think that you saying, Alexa, set the pizza timer for 10 minutes is like, the feds are going to come and get you.
Yeah.
Like I just don't see it as again, that's kind of where I'm at. What I find interesting is like the smart ovens, like this microwave, which is really cool. Just things like that. I'm not a big fan of the frames I just don't see me wearing something like that on my eyes. And then I love like these like Amazon Flex. They're like speakers that are plugged into walls. They kind of operate as like outlets and stuff. I will probably not do the Echo Buds. Did you see the story about the Echo Buds where the guy who works for Amazon went on Fox News or CNN or CNBC or whatever to announce the Echo Buds? And do you know what he was wearing?
Was he wearing earbuds? AirBuds?
AirPods. How are you going to go on national television to debut the Echo Buds? You work for Amazon and you're doing the interview in AirPods. Come on, man.
Yeah, that just seems like an easy one. That's an easy one.
Man.
It's like don't wear if you're going to go on TV and talk about the vegan lifestyle, don't be wearing leather shoes or a leather belt. Just get the basics down, man.
Get the basics, man, and then we can work on other stuff. So yeah, I'm actually a big fan of this. My kids love it. My biggest problem with all of it is that Ryder has a little bit of like a speech impediment, and he can't say Alexa, so it's Alexa. And so he gets really, really mad when he's yelling at Alexa to try and like play a song or whatever. And other than that, though, we're big fans of what they're doing and this whole house integration. We haven't gotten to the ordering part yet, like Alexa, order us toilet paper or something. But it's only days until my wife figures that out, and all she has to do is talk to Alexa, and then groceries show up at her house. Like I am confident that will happen in our future.
Absolutely.
I don't know.
I think it's definitely interesting. And although it is funny, like it definitely goes off like when I'm watching TV, like, and anything that sounds close to Alexa, like it definitely just triggers and starts talking half the time, which is funny and also annoying. And also if you have anyone in your life named Alex or Alexandra or anything in that capacity, like it's just, a small thing. But I do think you can actually change the name if you want to.
I think you can too. I think it's there's I don't remember what the other one is, but anyway, we just kept it with Alexa. It was easy for us. But I don't know. I'm a big fan, and if it makes your life easier, I'm a believer that voice does actually make life easier. Like, just even yesterday as I was driving, I was like, hey, Siri, get me directions to here. And, and now Siri obviously turns on as I'm recording, but I do believe in voice, especially when you're driving. I think it makes you safer. When you're cooking, it's definitely helpful. So you can just say, hey, Alexa, set timer or do this or remind me. I even set reminders for like the morning, like Alexa, remind me at 8 a.m. to put extra chips in Colton's bag because he's got snack day or whatever, So just little things like that I think make life easier. It is just easier to talk, than to go set something or do something. And I think Amazon's got a leg up on everybody when it comes to that. So moving on, next one, little bit of the controversy here. We're talking about some gender neutral dolls that Mattel has put out there. And kind of these gender neutral dolls, if you will. Why are we talking about gender neutral dolls?
Well, I think it's interesting because you and I grew up at a time where there were Barbie and Ken, and I'll speak for myself. I probably didn't have either. I had, G.I. Joes and Transformers and stuff. But I think it just shows how much the world has changed in terms of how we define things and kind of inclusivity. And it's interesting that it's fascinating to me that they're, it's gotten to a place where we're so concerned about, not stigmatizing or not kind of labeling people that it's starting to reflect in all areas of our culture and dolls. And to me, I have a feeling this is definitely kind of a little bit of a controversy. There's going to be some people who say, well, we can't do this or whatnot, but I think it's really interesting. And these are dolls that you can basically make whatever you want. You can make them boys, you can make them girls, you can have them switch each day. And it's an interesting business lesson in terms of how things are changing.
Man, you hit it right. Like things are changing, right? And, even before we went live, I was like, how are we going to talk about this? Because, I have some opinions and feelings, but I also believe that like dude, if that's you, like, do you, you know? But I also have this belief that, like, you know, there's boys and there are girls. And you know, I was watching Chappelle's last special, which from the critics, mostly liberal critics, got roasted, you know, like, don't watch this. It's terrible. The Wall Street Journal put out an op-ed that was, you know, but then the public gave it 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. And you just have this thing. And in one of them, you know, he says, well, what if LeBron James woke up today and he's like, you know what? I'm no longer LeBron James. I'm Lorena James, and I'm going to go play in the WNBA. You know, and he goes, and the joke was like, and, you know, and LeBron James' team wins 867-4, you know, and it just, you know, like there is a physical difference between what men can do and what female can do. Now, that in the workplace, no, if, you know, if someone could do the same job, I believe in equal pay. I believe in a lot of this movement. But it's just so weird to me to, like, have to talk to, you know, again, my 3 boys and talk to them about, you know, well, if you feel like a girl, you could, like, it just, I don't know how to, I don't know. Again, I grew up similar, you know, to how you did. I had Transformers, I had G.I. Joes, I had Hulk Hogan. Like, Hulk Hogan was a guy, like, and he was macho and he was masculine and he had muscles and he beat people up for a living. And I still have kind of that mentality of, like, you know, the physical differences between, you know, men and women. And I don't actually think that that's a bad thing. You know, like, there's things that women can do that I can't do. Like, there's no way in hell I could do. And there's things that I can do that my wife can't do. And I kind of like that I have to, you know, grab the stuff off the top shelf or carry the heavy stuff in from the car. But then there's like 1,000 more things that she can do that I can't. And so,
yeah, it's definitely it's one of these conversations that no matter which direction you talk about, I feel like it's a lose-lose with all of.
Totally.
But, you know, it's funny to me, like, because I live in a very liberal area, and I definitely grew up with, like you said, you know, boys were boys, girls were girls. And we grew up in a place where we have there's a huge gay community, a lot of, you know, same parent families. So 2 moms and 2 dads. And, you know, I have no judgment on, I think some of those parents are better than I will ever be. And so I have no judgment on it. And you know, and so it's I think for us it's a little challenging because, you know, when you grow up a certain way, that's what you know, and so it feels foreign, but it doesn't mean there's anything wrong. So stuff like this, I think, is a natural evolution of where we're going. And, you know, it's funny, like we have a friend who's these 2 moms, and their boy, when they were younger, they were like, wear whatever you want, you know, dress however you want to dress. And when he was younger, he would wear dresses all the time and do, you know, things that we would normally ascribe to being girls. And it was totally fine. But then also when he hit like 5, he was like, I'm not doing this anymore. And he started dressing more traditionally as a boy. And he's, you know, rough and tumble. And that's just who he is. And I think it's just, I don't know, I think it just speaks to us being open and accepting and understanding that our kids are going to grow up in a very different world than we did. And I think that's kind of cool. And, you know, even if we don't understand it, it's just like, how do we stay open and, you know, and just be supportive. So look, if a kid if this makes a kid feel better about themselves because there's a doll that is fluid like them, then
speaks to them. Yeah, then great.
Yeah, and so, and good on Mattel if they can capitalize and, you know, you make money on where there's opportunity. So it's interesting, and but it's definitely, I definitely understand that conflicting feeling of like, well, it's a little foreign to what I'm used to, but, you know, I think as long as we stay open, then so be it.
You know, the one constant in life, not just in parenting, is change, right? Like, things change. Like, my parents didn't know how to deal with things like technology. Right? Like, they didn't grow up on laptops and cell phones and all of these things. When I was trying to be, you know, a rapper, my dad thought that I was crazy. Like, and he had to deal with, like, that culture wasn't around when he was a kid. Right. And so there's always going to be these things that parents don't understand, you know, because they didn't grow up with it that way. There's always going to be things that are constantly evolving and changing. Like the thought of getting in a stranger's car, right, and having them take you to, like, a concert or a sports game, you know, to our parents is like, are you crazy? Like, that's what I told you every single day. Don't get in a car with strangers. And now that's how we, like, I don't know how to travel without doing that. And so, you know, with the whole gender side, these different things, like, it's just another human evolution. It's just adapting. It's you know, again, the one constant that I am absolutely sure of as a parent, as a person, as a business owner, as a writer, is things are going to change. And you can either try and fight it, but, history shows that you're going to lose, right? Like, if anybody thinks that we're going backwards on technology, you're out of your freaking mind, right? Like, we're not putting all this Alexa stuff in our home and then saying, you know what? Nah, we don't want this anymore, right? It's only going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And these, issues with sexuality, with gender, with race, with all this stuff, it's not going away. It's going to become more accepted. And again, I think the one constant in all of this is that things are going to change, and history shows that, it's going to, and you can fight it, but usually those who fight it are the ones who lose.
Well said.
Anyway, all right, rant over. I was trying to put a little positive spin in that, because I do believe that in change. And one guy whose life has really changed over the last month and a half is our good old boy AB, Antionio Brown, wide receiver in the NFL, probably the most talented wide receiver in the NFL, and he is jobless right now. I saw a meme, and I thought it was really, really funny about him. He said he's the only player in NFL history to have 3 jerseys on the clearance rack at the same time from 3 different teams. I thought that was just, I was cracking up. So for those who aren't paying attention, Antionio Brown played for the Pittsburgh Steelers, was one of the top receivers in the league. Towards the end of last season, had some controversy in the last regular season game, didn't end up playing, kind of demanded a trade, and ended up on the Oakland Raiders, didn't really want to be there. All kinds of nonsense and shenanigans going on there. Ends up getting released basically the week of the opening of the regular season. Of course, the evil empire, the Patriots, which you're probably a Patriots fan. The evil empire picks him up, and
I'm a New Yorker through and through.
All right, good. So the evil empire of Bill Belichick and Tom Brady pick up this guy. He scores a touchdown in his first game, and then he gets released 3 days later. So there's so much going on off the field, on the field with this guy. What's going on with AB? Like, what are your thoughts about what's happening to him, why this is happening, and maybe what we can learn from this whole AB saga?
Yeah. So, I mean, the reason this on a higher level, this spoke to me because it made me think about, when you're raising kids, like what happens when you have like a super smart kid or a super talented kid, and does that allow them, do you allow someone to be a little shit because they have a talent, and what do you put up with? And, this strikes me just as a guy who for so much of his life has coasted because he was so talented and so great that he never had to develop certain basic things about how to play well with other people and how to be part of a team, and figured he can just get away with what he wants to because he can run fast and score a touchdown. And what you're seeing is like a lot of organizations realize that it doesn't matter how good you are, but if you're kind of an asshole and you can't, you can't act within the normal confines of society, it's not okay. It's not enough. Like, you can't just be a complete, for lack of a better word, douche and move on. And so it's unfortunate. It's like, for me, it's like it's easy for me to say, but like if I was, the most talented person on earth and could basically do anything I wanted, provided I just acted like a normal human being, it kind of drives me nuts, to throw away so many opportunities because for whatever reason, you're not kind of grounded in just a normal life. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think most of at least American society, American culture, because of our capitalistic natures and our win at all costs, we usually give these guys a pass. And I think that's why AB got a second chance in Oakland and a third chance in New England, is because Bill Belichick in New England will win pretty much at all costs, right? We've seen it in the NFL with people who were arrested for domestic abuse, domestic violence, who the team's like, well, he hasn't quite been convicted yet, so we're going to let him play this Sunday. And and you see it in organizations too. You see, CEOs, doing, these terrible things, or, doing bad things to the environment, or doing bad things to their employees, and they get a pass because their stock's growing. And, these people with talent really have gotten a pass. And what I think that's interesting about this is, at some point, enough is enough, and we don't need to deal with these assholes. We don't need to deal with these headaches. We don't need to deal with all the extra stuff coming around. You know what? We will be just fine without you. And I think this is a really good thing for the NFL if AB does stay away. I'm not saying that it's good for AB, but it's good for the NFL to say, like, you know what? We don't need you, because guess what? There's a ton of amazingly talented athletes coming out of college. There's a ton of amazingly talented athletes, that want to take your place, that are willing to work hard, that are, that their talent is there. We don't necessarily need you. I mean, we're seeing it now, with all these I think I was watching SportsCenter this morning. There were 6 quarterbacks who started in week 3 or week 4, whatever it was, who did not start week 1, and 5 of them won games. So we don't need Drew Brees or Cam Newton or these superstars who are making, because there's people willing to take their place, and we don't need to deal with the headache. Now, some of those guys got injured. I got it. Not the same situation, but the point is that, if you think that your shit don't stink, and that people will put up with your shit just because of your talent, there are so many talented people out there who are willing to step up and do it for free, to do it cheaper, to do it faster, to get their foot in the door so that they can start that game and prove that they can do it too. And, unfortunate for AB, but, you do got to play by some of the rules, right? Even with all of that talent.
Well, and also remember, look, our boy, Tom Brady, he was a second string QB. And he came in, I think, who was it? Was it Drew Brees? I forgot who it was that got injured. But he came in off of an injury. He was kind of, almost a red shirt at that point. And he's become one of the most, if not the most successful QB in football history. And he was not, a quote unquote superstar. He played nicely. He worked his ass off. And when the opportunity came, the guy stood up. And say what you will about the Pats, I mean, that guy is a champion. And
totally. But on paper, he didn't look like one, right? Like on paper, he was, 20 millionth round, one of the last picks in the draft, overlooked, too skinny, didn't have a strong enough arm, but just give this guy a chance, and now he's the greatest, one of the greatest of all time.
That's well said. And my favorite line in that thing, it just says, because it's an entrepreneur article and about how to, using it as a lesson, but the author says talent is replaceable. And so it's not just coasting on your talent. You have to develop social skills and emotional intelligence and all that crap. And I will not go on a rant because I want to make sure I don't know how much time we have left to get into any other articles, but it's a really fascinating one.
Yeah, make sure you go read it. And we love what's your take on the AB saga if you've been following it, both as a dad of maybe a child who is excelling in sports and getting by on their talent or their looks because they're maybe in the fashion industry or they're a model or they're really good at something scholastic. Like, what are your thoughts on being super talented, and does that give you privilege and different things? We'd love to hear from you. Make sure you send that to us. A lot of people called AB crazy, which in this sense was a bad thing. But these entrepreneurs from Nashville, Tennessee, want their ideas to be called crazy. They're in the hospitality industry. Ben and Max Goldberg. Let's talk a little bit about this article. Why are we talking about this? What stood out to you in this article?
So this is an article, and what I liked about it is these two brothers who've been, obviously they're best friends and they're brothers, and they have just built these incredible hotels and hospitality environments. And it was an interview with the two of them. And the thing that I loved was we're talking about them because there's a point in it where they say that basically every time they launch a new endeavor or a new experience, investors basically tell them they're out of their damn minds. And they're like, they're like, there's no way this is going to work. You guys are crazy. And they basically said, like, if someone doesn't tell us it's crazy, or if someone says, oh, I don't know, they don't want to do it because they want to push the envelope. They want to try things that no one's tried before. And as an entrepreneur and as a parent, like, I totally get that. Like, you have to be willing to kind of put something out there and be willing to fail on your face. But if you also follow your instincts and your gut, so many things are possible. And that just really spoke to me, both as a parent and as someone trying to make a difference in the world of the work that I'm doing, where people are like, why would you do that? That's insane. And it's never been done before, but that doesn't mean it's not possible. And I think that's what really kind of captivated me when I saw this article. And I also love the idea of brothers working together and being honest about hating each other at times, but being best friends and doing great shit together.
You're someone, in a lot of your career, you've done some really cool marketing campaigns, branding campaigns. You help people to become that, at one time kind of that renegade entrepreneur, renegade CEO. How do you think about riding that line between this is just a crazy idea, meaning it's a bad idea, and this is a crazy idea, meaning we need to do this? Because I do think there's that line of like, this dreamer, far-fetched, living in fantasy land versus this guy might be able to pull this off. And, like we need the dreamers, we need the crazy people. How do you ride that line, either when you're working with clients or when you see a project, to kind of say, you know what, this is crazy, but shit, this might work?
Yeah, it's a tough one, because sometimes it's not, even if something looks like it's not going to work, having the courage and the audacity to keep going is sometimes that piece that gets you towards gold. And then it is kind of hard of like, where do you stop? Where do you keep going? I don't know. I mean, I think it's bravery, but you also do need to kind of create benchmarks of where you're going to stop or how far you're willing to go. But sometimes it comes down to your gut and your intuition of like, I feel that there's something here. I feel like there's an opportunity. And for me, I've gotten to a point where I'm not going to throw all my chips into one thing because there's just too many things going on. But, sometimes you just got to be willing to give it a try. And if you're really committed to doing everything in your means to make something happen, a lot of times it can work out. It might evolve, but I don't have a specific answer. I'd be curious to hear for you as well. But I also just do a lot of testing. Like when I was kind of putting my business together and I had this whole notion of saying things that people aren't traditionally supposed to say, I kind of put feelers out there and went and spoke and went places and saw if it resonated with people. You test slowly. And if you're getting a response, then you go in bigger increments so that you at least can get a feel or some feedback if you're moving in the right direction.
I love kind of the testing thing, but to me, that's almost phase two. For me, phase one has got to be, do I believe that this person can, deliver this? Can he pull it off? Does he have the charisma? Does he have the passion? Does he have the fire in his eyes that he might actually be able to do this? Like, I bet when Elon Musk was trying to pitch Tesla, yes, people thought that he was crazy, but you saw the fire in his eyes. Like, if anybody can do it, it's going to be this dude, right? And I live in such, personality-driven worlds, whether that's a financial advisor, an attorney, a business coach, a real estate agent, whatever it is. I either believe in them as a leader, as a maven, as a, whatever you want to call it, or I don't. Like, this guy doesn't have it. And so when I hear these crazy ideas, I like, does this person have it or does this person not? And there's just people when they walk into a room. And again, it's not to say like this is kind of the judge a book by its cover thing, but they're to me, that's how I kind of at least take that step one. Then step two is, like you said, how do I get a minimum viable something out the door? A press release, an interview, a quick ad to a landing page. How do I get something as fast as possible out to let the market decide if this is crazy or not? Because at the end of the day, they're the only shareholders that matter. Like, does someone who has the means and ability to buy this or, back this or invest in this or whatever, do they care about this? So step one is I got to have belief in the person. And then step two is exactly what you said. How do we get something out there to test as quick as possible? Preferably with a checkbook, because, it's easy when like you and I, as we've been like testing the show out, I've been like sending it to like friends. I know you have too. And they're like, yeah, Matt, the show's great. Yeah, Greg, the show's great. But it's easy for them to say it's great, A, because they're buddies, but B, because there's no skin in the game. If I was like, all right, you got to pay for this podcast, which you don't, it would be a different story. So anyway, that's kind of my 2 cents on that.
No, I like that a lot. And I used to always say, people give a shit about people who give a shit. And I do think it is the conviction of being willing to see something through, and people do respond to people who are passionate and, passionate with a plan. It's not just, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, rainbows are going to come out of the sky magically and give us money. But yeah, I think you actually encapsulate it really well. It's a really good balance.
All right, so let's close out the show today with this really cool viral story. So we started the show on a high note. We're going to end the show on a high note. It's this college professor who took it into her own hands to help out one of her students. One of her students just had a baby. Obviously, if you're in school and you have a baby, That's really, really hard to do because, it's really easy to, feed the baby and put it to sleep and rock it and all this stuff in the middle of the day, when you're at school. And if you don't have the means for daycare or family to assist, it can get really, really tough. I know even with my wife staying at home with our, 3 kids, it is a circus at all times. So this college professor actually said, hey, you know what? I'll just carry your baby around during class and put it in one of the baby carriers. And this is just the coolest thing ever. And this just goes to show that no matter how much I will take a shot at our school system, the people, the teachers really give a shit. They really care. They really want their students to succeed. I believe that the teachers are in it for the right reasons, and this is one of those teachers. And so, I mean, when you see something like this, I mean, how does this just hit your heart?
Yeah, this totally warms my heart in a lot of ways. It just, first off, just a student who's so committed to going to school and was like, I don't want to miss class, and being prepared to do whatever it takes. But then a teacher kind of just going above and beyond, and not only being like, it could have been one thing for a teacher just to say, hey, bring your baby to class, but then also having the foresight to be like, you're not going to be able to take notes. You're going to be distracted, and it's going to distract everyone. Let me help. And this teacher, I think her name is Dr. Ramada. I think it's Sisse. I might probably butchering it, but she made the whole thing seem so seamless and flawless. It was just such a cool example. And, I love stories that go viral like this because you're not doing this because you even think twice about it going viral. You're just doing it because that's who you are. And so just the fact that like she kind of came into it, and then her daughter had written, this is my mom, I'm so proud of her. It says a lot. And with all of the bad stuff going on in the world, there are people who are great people and want to help people. And that's exciting to me. That's like the kind of world you do want to live in. That's why this just, I don't know. It hit me in the feels, as the kids say.
Yeah. Great story. And just, as a dad, when you're out there, how can you today pay it forward and do the right thing? This is my call to arms for you guys today. Is like, what can you do today to just do the right thing? Is it, helping out someone that you see in the parking lot when they're having trouble putting their groceries in the car? I know that's cheesy, but like that might help that person out that day. How can you assist? How can you just not go around in life being silent and sticking to yourself, but actually create some significance in the life of others? That's my call to arms for you guys today. You don't have to put a baby on your back and teach a class for 3 hours. I mean, if you want to, more power to you, but what can you do today to put a smile on someone's face, especially another parent who's going through the same crap that you are, who's having the same tough time that you are, who has the same stress and, aggravations and sleep deprivation and all the things that you have. What can you do today to create more significance in the world, not just in your world, but in the world around you? Because this world is a great place. It is a changing place. There's Amazon Alexas everywhere. There's gender neutral baby toys out there. There are so many things out there. What can you do today to make a difference? I don't know, man. I got a little preachy, but that's just my call to action for the day.
No, preach on, brother. And to quote, to geek out on my favorite author, Kurt Vonnegut, one of my favorite quotes is he says, "We're all here to help each other get through this thing, whatever this thing is." And that's the truth, man. That's really what it comes down to. And I think those are the lessons you want to get into your kids. I always tell Nate, I'm like, look, whatever you want to do with your life, I will support it. I will guide you and get you there. But most importantly, I want you to be a good person, because ultimately that is what's going to matter the most. And that's how you make a difference. When you can improve someone's lives just in a small thing, man, it can change the world. And you have no idea the far-reaching impact of what one little act of kindness does for people. So preach on, my friend. And I think that's a great call to action to end today's show.
Damn right. And we're doing our little part by having this little pod. Hope you guys are enjoying it. If you learned something, if you thought something that we shared was impactful to you, or you thought that we're just two rambling idiots, screenshot this episode, share it on Instagram, tag either Matt, myself, both of us, #DadChat, so we can check that out. And, we can continue to share this show with other dads who are, trying to take over the world, but still get home in time for dinner, just like Simon Cowell is doing right now. You like how I brought that that all the way back around.
Dude,
Pretty good.
That was a nice bow. Yeah.
You know, not my first rodeo. Screenshot this. Let us know that you're listening. Send us your articles, things that you're reading that you love our 2 cents on, and to share with this community of ambitious dads. Matt, my man, thank you again as always, and we'll chat again next week.